Greetings to all. Welcome to Future Officers Academy. Today we are going to see the daily current affairs of September 7. So today we are going to discuss the topics of Center approves new treatment regime for multi-drug resistant TB, which comes under GS2 governance. Next, shared ownership of protected monuments with whack of both cases conflict, which comes under GS2 polity. Next, NTCA letter on relocation from tiger zones draws iron, so which comes under GS3 environment. Next, the tourism policy ill-suited for Jammu and Kashmir, so which comes under GS2 Indian polity. Next, financialization, we have to know under terms. Next, editorial analysis. So, our first topic is about center approves new treatment regimen for multi-drug resistant TB. So why it is in news? The Union Health Ministry on Friday approved the introduction of a new treatment regimen for multi-drug resistant tuberculosis in India, the BPALM regime. That is BPALM regime has proven to be safe, more effective and quicker treatment option than the previous multi-drug resistant tuberculosis, that is MDR-TB treatment procedure, the ministry said. It added that the country was working towards the elimination of TB by 2025, 5 years ahead of the global target for eliminating the disease under the Sustainable Development Goals. As part of these efforts, the ministry has introduced the BPALM regimen, a novel treatment for MDR-TB under its National TB Elimination Program. Next, about the high success rate. This regimen includes a new anti-TB drug, pretomanid, that is pretomanid, in combination with bedaquiline, bedaquiline and linezolid. So without moxifloxacin. So petromanet had earlier been approved and licensed for the use in India by Central Drug Standard Control Organization. While traditional treatments can last up to 20 months with severe side effects, the BPALM regimen can cure drug-resistant TB in just 6 months with a high success rate. India's 75,000 drug-resistant TB patients will now be able to benefit from this shorter regimen. Next, the trends in TB cases and deaths. The majority of TB cases are still reported by the government health centers, even as there has been an uptick in notifications by the private sector. Nearly 33% of the 25.5 lakh cases reported in 2023 came from the private sector. To compare, only 1.9 lakh cases were reported by the private sector in 2015, the year considered to be the baseline by the program that is geared towards the elimination of the disease. The estimated incidence of TB in 2023 increased slightly to 27.8 lakh from the previous year's estimation of 27.4 lakh. The mortality due to the infection remained the same at 3.2 lakh. Next, India's TB mortality dropped from 4.94 lakhs in 2021 to 3.31 lakhs in 2022. India reached its 2023 target for initiating treatment in 95% of patients diagnosed with the infection. So with this, we have the previous year question paper which have been asked in 2017. Which of the following are the objectives of National Nutrition Mission? To create awareness relating to malnutrition among pregnant women and lactating mothers, to reduce the incidence anemia among young children, adolescent girls and women, to promote the consumption of millets, coarse cereals and unpolished rice, to promote consumption of poultry eggs. Select the correct answer using the code given below. Here the answer is A. First two statements are correct. Our next topic is about shared ownership to protected monuments with lack of board causes conflict. So the recent discussions before a parliamentary committee have highlighted significant tensions between the Archaeological Survey of India and the Waqf Board concerning the management of historical monuments. The ASI has raised concerns about the administrative conflicts and conservation issues arising from the dual destination of certain protected monuments as Waqf properties. This debate unfolds as the Waqf Amendment Bill 2024 is under review. Now, what are the key issues raised by the ASI? The ASI manages and conserves monuments classified under the Ancient Monuments and Archaeological Sites and Remains Act, that is AMASR Act. So simultaneously, some of these monuments have been declared a Waqf properties under the Waqf Act 1995. So, for example, the Fatehpur Sikri in Agra and Atala Masjid in Janupur are cited as examples where such dual authority has led to conflicts. Next, the Atala Masjid in Janpur has reportedly seen shops constructed within its presence and fittings in Mecca Masjid Ahmednagar were installed without ASI approval. Next, we have to know about Waqf Board. The Waqf Board is an organization that manages and oversees properties designated as Waqf under Islamic law. These properties are considered charitable endowments and are often used for religious, education, or social purposes. Their functions is Waqf boards are responsible for the upkeep and administration of Waqf properties, which may include mosques, graveyards, schools, and other charitable institutions. The Waqf Act 1995 empowers the Waqf Board to declare any property or building as Waqf property in the name of charity. Next, we have to know about the Waqf Amendment Bill 2024. The bill seeks to amend existing Waqf laws and addresses various issues related to the management of Waqf properties. It is under review by the Parliamentary Committee. Now, what we have to know about the protected monuments. Protected monuments are historical and archaeological sites recognized by the government for their cultural, historical, or architectural significance. They are safeguarded under Ancient Monuments and Archaeological Sites and Remains Act 1958. The Archaeological Survey of India is responsible for the conservation and preservation of these sites. This includes preventing unauthorized alterations, conducting restorations, and ensuring the historical integrity of the monuments is maintained. So, our next topic is about NTCA letter on relocation from tiger zones draws and so the National Tiger Conservation Authority, that is NTCA, the apex body responsible for tiger conservation recently issued directives urging 19 states to prioritize the relocation of villagers residing in core tiger zones. Now we have to know about NTCA's directive. According to the NTCA, 591 villages comprising 64,801 families reside in the core tiger zone, posing a significant concern for tiger conservation. The core zone refers to the part of tiger reserve where human activities such as hunting and forest produce collection are prohibited and tribals cannot reside. Outside the core zone is the buffer zone where certain activities are allowed but regulated. So with this we have to know about the National Tiger Conservation Authority. So first their constitution. It is a statutory body under Minister of Environment Forest Conservation, so constituted with Wildlife Protection Act 1972. Next chairmanship, it was chaired by the Minister for Environment and Forest. The structure is 8 experts in wildlife conservation and tribal welfare and 3 MPs and Inspector General of Forest as ex officio member secretary. Next, their objectives. It provides statutory authority to Project Tiger, enhance center state accountability in managing tiger reserves, provide parliamentary oversight, addresses livelihood concerns of local communities. Next, their powers and functions. Approve state prepared tiger conservation plan, prevent unsustainable land use in tiger reserves, set standards for tourism and tiger conservation guidelines, and connect tiger census via Stripes app. Next, support biodiversity conservation through eco development and people's participation. Next, the key initiative is Project Tiger, a centrally sponsored scheme for institute conservation of tigers launched in April 1, 1973. So, with this, we have the UPSC prelims question which have been asked in 2014. Consider the following statement. Animal Welfare Board of India is established under the Environment Protection Act 1986. National Tiger Conservation Authority is a statutory body. National Ganga River Basin Authority is chaired by the Prime Minister. Which of the statement given above is are correct? So here the answer is B. Only second and third statement are correct. Our next topic is about a tourism policy ill-suited for Jammu and Kashmir. So first we have to know why it is in news. Kashmir's fragile environment faces severe damage from urbanization, commercialization and climate change, underscoring the urgent need for resilient and sustainable tourism model. Now what are the aims and objectives of J&K tourism policy? The first thing is promoting all form of tourism. The policy aims to promote traditional recreational tourism as well as adventure pilgrimage, spiritual and health tourism. This diversification can attract a wider range of tourists. Next, the sustainable practices. The policy emphasizes the need for sustainable tourism practices that minimize environmental degradation, conserve water, and protect biodiversity. Next, the infrastructure development. It seeks to improve infrastructure, including hotels, roads, and recreational facilities, to accommodate the growing number of tourists. Next, the community engagement. The policy aims to include local communities in tourism planning and decision making process, promoting their involvement in conservation efforts and sustainable practices. Next, the diversification of tourism. By promoting various forms of tourism such as ecotourism, adventure tourism, and cultural tourism, the policy aims to reduce over reliance on traditional tourist spots and distribute footfall more evenly across the region. Now, what are the effects of new policy? So first, under the efforts of the new policy is the positive impacts we have that increased tourist influx. That is, since the announcement of the new tourism policy in 2020, over 40 million tourists have visited Kashmir. Next, increase in employment. The policy helps to generate employment for approximately 50,000 people per year, which can significantly boost the local economy. Next, promotes culture and festivals. The policy promotes city-wise events and festivals with a predefined calendar to attract tourists. Next, the boosting exports and collaboration. The policy helps the handicraft industry, which was earlier limited to select destinations, to directly export and collaborate both national and intentionally. Next, the negative impacts. Environmental stress. The rapid increase in tourist activities has led to significant ecological disturbance, including deforestation, waste accumulation, and pollution of water bodies. Next, increase in infra strain. It also resulted in encroachment on natural habitats and increased pressure on local resources such as water and electricity. Next, the climate change impact. The region is experiencing accelerated effects of climate change, including glacial depletion of erratic weather patterns, weather threaten agriculture sustainability and water availability. Next, the major challenge, that is fragility of the region. The natural disasters. First of all, Jammu and Kashmir is prone to natural disasters such as earthquakes, floods, and landslides, which can exacerbated by unchecked commercialization and environmental degradation. Next, ecological sensitivity. The region's delicate ecosystems are highly vulnerable to the impact of the tourism and urbanization, necessitating careful management to prevent irreversible damage. Next, the resource depletion. The increased demand for water and energy resources is leading to the depletion of aquifers and highlighted reliance on hydroelectric projects, which disrupt local aquatic ecosystems. Next, the need for resilient tourism model. So the needs are sustainable tourism practices. That is, there is an urgent need to adopt resilient and sustainable tourism model that prioritizes eco-friendly practices, wastewater reduction, and conservation of natural resources. Next, community involvement. Engaging local communities in tourism planning and decision making is the crucial for fostering sustainable practices and ensuring that the benefits of tourism are shared equally. Next, the infrastructure resilience. Developing the infrastructure that can withstand extreme weather events and diversifying tourism offerings beyond peak seasons would help mitigate the impacts of climate change. Next, the policy integration. A cohesive approach that integrates sustainable tourism policies with broader economic and environmental strategies is essential for preserving the region's natural beauty while supporting local economies. So that's all from this topic. Our next topic is about financialization. So, Chief Economic Advisor recently cautioned the financialization might distort Indians' macroeconomic. So, about financialization, we have to know that. If refers to the increase in size and importance of a country's financial sector relative to its overall economy. It is the process whereby financial markets, financial institutions, and financial elites gain greater influence over economic policy and economic outcomes. It represents the shift from traditional industrial or productive activities like manufacturing to financial activities that involve the trading, management, and speculation of financial assets. The term also describes the increasing diversity and transactions and market players as well as their intersection with all parts of economy and society. It has occurred as countries shifted away from the industrial capitalism. It impacts both the macroeconomy and microeconomy by changing how financial markets are structured and operated and by influencing corporate behavior and economic policy. Financialization has also caused incomes to increase more in the financial sector than in other sectors of the economy. Our next topic is about editorial analysis. Our editorial analysis topic is stick to fiscal deficit as norm for fiscal prudence. So first, the context. Government expenditures exceeding revenue by a high margin can lead to difficult situation. In 1980s, rising fiscal deficit accompanied by rising government debt led to difficult balance of payment situation and a high ratio of interest payment to revenue recipients. Now, what are the key budget pointers here? First, the financial budget 2024 to 25 targets. According to finance minister from 26 to 27 that aim to reduce the fiscal deficit annually to lower central government debt as a percentage of GDP. Next, the center debt GDP ratio, it estimated at 54% in 2025 to 26, assuming a nominal GDP growth of 10.5% in these 2 years. Next, declining debt to GDP ratio. After this, the central government aims to behave only a reducing path of debt GDP ratio without stating a debt GDP target and specifying a path to reach that. Next, the targets of state government. If in their respective fiscal responsibility legislations, that is FRLs, have adopted the fiscal deficit gross state domestic product target of 3%. Next, their limited private space. Such a profile of debt and fiscal deficit, while consistent with a falling debt GDP or GSDP profiles, would leave little space for the private sector to access available investable surplus unless current account deficit is increased beyond sustainable levels. Now, what is the scope of private sector investment? The scope in private sector investments are arguments of the 12th Finance Commission. Key observations such as household sector transferable savings of 10% of GDP and declining household savings and its impact on fiscal deficits. Now, what is the link between fiscal deficit and debt GDP ratio? The arithmetic relationship between fiscal deficit and debt GDP ratio is that to reduce the debt GDP ratio, one has to act on fiscal deficit GDP ratio, which essentially means change in the debt GDP ratio between two consecutive years. Fiscal responsibility framework has been built in India after 2003, with states coming on board with respective FRLs has considered a suitable combinations of debt GDP or GSDP levels along with fiscal deficit GDP GSDP levels. Next, the Indian scenario. The significance of high debt GDP ratio shows, and also the ratio of center interest payment to revenue receipts next to the tax devolution. Next, comparing the India and international scenarios, debt to GDP and low interest payments. Also, the policy initiatives such as recent statement highlight the debt of GDP ratio as a key policy variable, but lack specific targets and pathways of India to achieve them. For example, the central debt GDP ratio surged from 50.7% in 2019 to 20 to 60.7% in 2020 to 21 within the year due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Next, the macroeconomic shock also have been seen. Next, with this we have to know about what is fiscal deficit. Fiscal deficit refers to the shortfall in the government's revenue when compared to the expenditure. When a government expenditure extends its revenues, the government will have to borrow money or sell assets to fund the deficit. Taxes are the most important source of revenue for any government. In 2024 to 25, the government tax receipts are expected to be rupees 26.02 lakh crore, while its total revenue is estimated to be 30.8 lakh crore. When a government runs a fiscal surplus, on the other hand, its revenues exceeded expenditure. It is, however, quite rare of governments to run a surplus. Most governments today focus on keeping the fiscal deficit under control than the generating fiscal surplus on balancing the budget. So with this we have to know about fiscal deficit and national debt. The national debt is total amount of money that the government of the country owes its lenders at a particular point in a time. Government debt encompasses various liabilities including domestic and external loans alongside obligations to schemes such as small savings, provident funds, and special securities. These liabilities entitle both interest payments and repayment of principal amounts, imposing a considerable financial burden on the government finance. It is usually the amount of debt that government has accumulated over many years of running fiscal deficits and borrowing to bridge the deficits. The higher government's fiscal deficit as a share of GDP, the less likely its lenders will be paid back without trouble. Now, what are the key formulas for this? Fiscal deficit, revenue deficit, revenue deficit, that is equal to total revenue receipts minus total revenue expenditure. Next, debt to GDP ratio. It measures how much a nation owes in relation to its GDP. Next, debt to GDP is equal to total debt of country divided by total GDP to the country. So what is the legislation related to the fiscal management in India? So they are fiscal discipline and consolidation, enhancing revenue mobilization, rationalizing expenditures, debt management strategies, and also the long-term structural reforms are seen under these things. So that's all from today's topic. To read this document, you can visit our website. Our website link have been given in a description. To get more daily current affairs videos, follow our YouTube channel, also our Telegram channel. Thank you.